The President. Good morning, members. Let's resume the meeting. Members' motion with no legislative effect. Members who wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. This council will proceed to a debate on Ms. Judy Chan's motion on formulating development strategies to deal with demographic challenges. 6 members will move amendments to the motion. This council will proceed to a joint debate on the motion and the amendments. I will first call upon Ms. Judy Chan to speak and move the motion. Then I will call upon Mr. Ken Wong, Mr. Duncan Chiu, Mr. Stanley, Ms. Maggie Chan, Ms. Nixie Lam, and Professor Priscilla LEUNG to speak in sequence, but they may not move the amendments at this stage. The joint debate now begins. I now call upon Ms. Judy Chan to speak and move the motion. Ms. Judy Chan. Thank you, Madam President. There's a huge challenge before us in our demographics. That's a fact. Based on government stats, in 2025, registered births numbered only 31,711, down 14% from 2024. This shows sub-replacement fertility is now a serious issue. The number of those aged over 65 will go up to 36% in 10 years' time from 2021, which was at 20.5%. That means by then, 1 in 3 people in Hong Kong will be a senior. And for the next 20 years, our workforce will keep shrinking. Technology is moving fast. How do we train more workers to adopt artificial intelligence? That's a key issue. This change is bound to affect our economy. With challenges come opportunities. Our country stresses demographic issues are a comprehensive, long-term, and strategic issues. And that means we need high-quality development in population as a way to support our strategic plans so that we can support our new development to achieve new results. So for our demographic challenges, we need an all-encompassing approach to population. We have to invest in people and invest in technology, and we have to integrate these 2 factors so that we can achieve greater results and everyone can share in the results on a more equal footing. Our birth rates have long been low. Community-level discussions turn on the fact that many couples thought about giving birth, but for various reasons, financial reasons, work, or problems with access to healthcare, those couples hesitated. To fix that, the government can do a few things. First, people get married late. The demand for assisted reproduction is growing. Access to reproductive services is now fairly widespread. So easier access to such services will prove helpful for many families. So we should make it easier for people who are still singletons to access such services. Another step we can take is to provide greater tax breaks for families with 2 or more children. That's to take pressure off those families and encourage them to give birth. And we should also support women in striking a balance between giving birth and their careers. This can encourage childbirth, and this is also a sensible step to take given our demographic change. More and more of our population are seniors. We have to face up to the aging population. Smart home appliances, remote healthcare, and smart monitoring devices can make a marked difference in the quality of life for seniors so that seniors can truly age at home and that can take pressure off our healthcare system. Improving seniors' quality of life is a key part of achieving a high-quality population. So I invite the government to invest in general technology and this research. Let's create an age-friendly environment. An aging population also means a shrinking workforce. That's a risk for Hong Kong. Failure to face up to that early on will undermine our long-term competitiveness. So the government should look into ways to raise the retirement age. Doing that will unleash silver productivity, and that can also foster the sustained development of the silver economy. Many seniors have a wealth of experience and expertise. They leave the workplace and then we get a gap in knowledge at the workplace. A more flexible employment policy will help those seniors to keep contributing to society. There's enormous potential in the silver economy. Seniors need healthcare, they want to travel, and we can drive new industries based on that demand. We have to keep people safe. Raising the retirement age will help us achieve security in demographics. We also have to achieve greater efficiency with the existing population. Adopting artificial intelligence is now a global trend. To stay competitive, our next generation and existing workers will have to master the skills in AI so that they do not get left in the dust. The government is working on digital education for primary and secondary schools. $2 billion has been earmarked for the Quality Education Fund to drive the support measures. I call on the government to keep up the effort. Let's step up and let's move faster with the curriculum reform. Data analytics and network technologies should be part of the education curriculum from an early age. The government should also step up partnerships with tertiary institutions to create a more comprehensive platform for AI training. Let's offer programs for people from all demographic groups to pick up AI-related skills. The government should also give thought to working with businesses. Let's set up a bilateral platform for schools to work with businesses. Let's do joint projects to give students exposure to technology as applied in real life so that they gain experience. For existing workers, retraining is one area we should explore. We should also encourage businesses to get their employees to keep reskilling or upskilling. The skills-based training of the Employees Retraining Board is a good start. So we can look at areas such as AI, data management, and INT that will truly help our workforce upskill. AI education and training in tech skills will mean not just personal enhancement, that will also give us high caliber talent, that will mean fresh impetus for our economy. So the government should adopt long-term thinking so that Hong Kong can stay competitive globally, and let's turn this demographic challenge into new opportunities. Demographic challenges are not unique to Hong Kong. We need strategic planning to rise to the challenges. Let's turn the challenges into opportunities so that Hong Kong becomes a more inclusive and more vital and more sustainable community. I so submit and move that the motion as printed on my agenda be passed. Thank you, Madam President.
I now propose the question to you that Ms. Judy Chan's motion be passed. Mr. Can Wong. Thank you, President. I very much thank Ms. Judy Chan for proposing the motion, giving us the opportunity to explore how to formulate policies to tackle the demographic challenge. Talents are a priority resource. It is core to consolidating Hong Kong's competitiveness. Right now, Hong Kong is faced with low fertility rate, an aging population, and a shrinking labor force. The different challenges. And I very much support what is said in the original motion that we have to encourage childbearing and we need to develop drone technology and unleash labor potential. To resolve the issue of a shrinking labor force, it is about enhancing quality of labor. It's not just about quantity. With advancement of technology, especially in AI and digital technology applications, We need to actively respond to the challenges, reform education, and have technology empower the upgrading and transformation of manpower resources. So on top of the original motion, I asked for the promotion of a reform of AI curriculum to enhance digital education literacy of students and provide AI application programs and related support for working persons, to nurture people of different ages and talents to help them upskill. On the promotion of reform of AI curriculum to enhance the digital education literacy of students. This is a pressing need that we need to nurture digital literacy in the next generation students. The government needs to enhance training for teachers, have a comprehensive review of the secondary and primary school curriculum, incorporate AI elements into the curricula. And we should have AI not just studied in a science subject, but in different subjects to make sure it is used in teaching. The government must enhance digital education literacy of students so that they can make use of AI to solve problems, to make sure they can distinguish real and fake information in AI. Also, we need to make sure we tackle the pressing need to have digital transformation of employees. With the prevalence of AI and automation technologies, many employees are worried their skills are outdated or they may be replaced by technology. The government must be proactive in providing actual support. I asked to expand the continuing education fund coverage, and the government should work with sectors and institutions to have targeted AI application programs and provide related support to working persons to enhance their digital skills so that they can make use of AI tools to enhance efficiency in work. For 60s to 65-year-olds, they are still very energetic, they have great experience, they're good assets to society. The government, as the largest employer in Hong Kong, they should take the initiative in exploring extending the retirement age of civil servants to unleash labor potential of the silver hair group. We should also boost silver economy. We should have elderly-friendly communities to enhance living quality of the elderly persons. President, we are faced with hard demographic challenges. We need to take a multi-pronged approach. We need to create a childbearing friendly environment, but we also need to make sure to use education and technology to enhance digital literacy and upskill the labor force of the city. Let's work together to enhance manpower resources of Hong Kong and lay solid foundations for sustainable development of Hong Kong and enhance competitiveness of the city. I so submit speaking in support of the original motion, and I ask members to support my amendment. Mr. Duncan Chu, I thank Ms. Judy Chen for proposing the motion. I have two main points in my amendments. One is to conduct a comprehensive survey on the future demographic structure, as well as to enhance mathematics and science education of primary and secondary students comprehensively to enhance international competitiveness of the next generation. In order to have relevant data for analysis, we need to conduct a comprehensive survey on the future demographic structure for long-term planning. We need to move towards an elite labor force. So we need to estimate the high caliber talents needed in different sectors in future. We also need to have more information on their families, their backgrounds. It is only with accurate, detailed data that we can have accurate estimations of what social service needs there are and what kind of support they need for our planning. We have mostly in the private housing sector small and medium-sized housing units. 75% of them are small and medium-sized housing units that and a lot of them are small units that are less than 40 square meters. And incoming talents, 70% of them want medium and large size housing units. We do have every year in future 18,000 to 20,000 small and medium-sized housing units. But then incoming talents and their families need 25,000 and 30,000 housing units, not to mention they should be of larger size. So we are short at least 20%. So we need to make sure to have more medium-sized and large-sized units. We need to plan in advance to prevent mismatch in resources. We ask people to bear children and we ask for incoming talents to come to Hong Kong, but we only have nano-sized housing units. How will they be attracted? Also, according with data of insurance companies, we have more Hong Kongers going to the Greater Bay Area for medical treatment. And in the first half of 2025, we already have 30% of the cases being reimbursement for cross-boundary health care. And over 20% of the patients with the Hong Kong Yu Shenzhen Hospital are Hong Kongers. We really need to think about how we can expand the cross-boundary usage of health vouchers. We need to also make sure e-health can be used cross-boundary. The government should make sure to consolidate relevant data and project future healthcare needs of Hong Kongers to make sure we have more targeted planning for future healthcare services and facilities. Perhaps we also need to adjust the 10-year hospital development plan as necessary. We have over 7.5 million in population, but in general, in the metropolises in the world, we have 9 million to 10 million in population. We have high living costs. We need to make sure we are attractive to incoming talents, and we should also retain local talents. We need to also we need to make sure basic education in Hong Kong would be solidified. We need to make sure we have adequate schools on the primary and secondary level, as well as international schools. International school places in Hong Kong are very attractive to talents. And between 2024 to 2028, according to the Education Bureau's data, we have 4% increase in demand every year for the places of international schools, but we only have 1.5% in increase in supply. And we have at least 20,000 to 30,000 school-aged children and in future coming to Hong Kong, and 70% of them would want international school places. The government already has plans to increase the supply of international school places. It is expected that there will be an additional 2,000 places, but we still don't have a timeline for the addition. So in the short term, we really need to perhaps ask international schools to have more classes, and we can also develop more quality private schools and DSS schools. Let me also declare I have a family that is operating international school. I so submit. Mr. Stanley, Thank you, President. Hong Kong is faced with the pressing challenge of a shrinking labor force. In the long term, it will affect Hong Kong's labor productivity and overall development. The government must review its existing demographic policy. The FTU supports the original motion and would like to propose amendments. President, to tackle the challenge, we need to attach great importance strategically to the issue, and the government should work as a whole to coordinate relevant policy and enhance existing demographic policy to create a childbearing friendly environment. Apart from the Health Bureau providing antenatal checks and childbearing services, the Labor and Welfare Bureau needs to provide welfare-related policy support. The Home and Youth Affairs Bureau and Education Bureau needs to work together to help with youth development and providing a family-friendly employment environment. It is not easy, and in fact, we have seen other developed countries in the world having different strategies. In Singapore, they have set up a particular commission in relation to demographic policy. Japan also set up a base for demographic strategy last year. We should refer to the good experience of other jurisdictions and make sure we find the pain points and target these pain points, have proper solutions. I have 3 suggestions. Right now, according to FTU surveys, for those between 18 to 40, 50% of them have concerns about housing. Over 40% of them have concerns about support for families with both parents being working parents. They don't want the pressure, so they choose not to bear children. And in fact, the FTU said before there should be a savings plan for purchasing property for youth so that we can have support for the youth in childbearing. There should also be a $2,000 child allowance as well as a progressive child tax allowance to alleviate the burden on youth in childbearing. In fact, President Xi also talked about whether a society is happy is really based on whether the elderly persons are happy. And the FTU thinks it is really important to enhance happiness and sense of security for elderly persons, and that we should appropriately extend retirement ages to really take advantage of such resources. We also advocate for singleton elderly households to use German technology for free. With different AI and technological applications, it has caused change in the labor force structure of Hong Kong. The FTU has been working hard to support the government in empowering the labor force. We suggest that the government make use of the employees retraining board to encourage more training institutions to have AI and advanced technology related programs to upskill and transform the labor force. Apart from the suggestions I made earlier, I would like to say that we must attach great importance to demographic policy. We need to have strategic planning. I hope that the government can take on board my suggestions, plan in advance. I also hope that members will support my amendments.
Ms. Maggie Chen. President, I speak in support of Ms. Judy Chen's motion. I urge the SAR government to provide diversified child care service to address the problem of low birth rate. According to the recommendations for the National 15th Five-Year Plan, we have to promote high-quality population development. Hong Kong has to dovetail with the National 15th Five-Year Plan, and in order for us to better integrate into the national development, we have to address problems of aging population as well as low birth rate. Since the previous legislative term, I have been fighting for more family-friendly measures. The government has indeed rolled out a lot of measures to promote childbearing. However, still a lot of families are facing financial pressure as well as competition from workplace and other challenges. For example, there is not enough supply for childcare services. Therefore, a lot of women are in the dilemma of whether they should give birth or they should carry on with their work. In order to provide better childcare services, I think we need more diverse range of services. It is only with more flexible and more common childcare services, as well as more family-friendly measures, then we can unleash the female workforce as well as incentivize them to give birth. I have the following suggestion. We have to continue to increase the number of service places for childcare service centers. Also, based on the population of each district, there should be more precise and targeted planning to avoid mismatch. Second, there needs to be more flexible services. There should be daycare, childcare services, half-day or even evening and weekend childcare services. We need more options for working parents. Also, we have to step up training for community nannies. We need to step up publicity and enhance service quality in order to boost the confidence of our parents so that they are willing to allow community nannies to take care of their children. At the same time, we can unleash a female workforce. Also, we have to extend childcare services to workplaces. We need childcare service centers in business districts. We have to adopt public partnership model. Public-private partnership model, and we have to encourage NGOs to provide childcare services. We also have to improve the after-school childcare service support. We have to make good use of schools in order to provide that service. We also have to provide assisted reproductive services, and this can work hand in hand with our childcare services. I suggest that we increase the number of places for public reproductive assisted reproductive technology services. We can also integrate Chinese medicine elements into Western medicine services. Also, we have to roll out tax breaks to provide more child allowance for families with children. We also should provide more tax breaks for families with newborns for at least 3 years. This will boost people's confidence in giving birth. Population policy is a major challenge that the government has to cope with. We need diversified and high-quality childcare services. I hope that the government would consider my above suggestions. I also hope other members would support my amendment so that every family would be bold enough to give birth, and together we will cope with the population and demographic challenges. Thank you. Ms. Nixie Lam, I thank Ms. Judy Chen for the motion. I agree that we have to cope with aging population problems and other challenges. I move this amendment because I want the government to formulate a more comprehensive population policy. In the original motion, there is a suggestion that we should raise the retirement age of the civil service to 65. The DAB is of the view that we have to be prudent about this. My view is that to cope with population challenges, we cannot rely on 1 or 2 policy bureaus. We need a cross-bureau task force led by an official at the Secretary of Department level to formulate better policies so as to promote our socio-economic growth. And this way we can dovetail with the recommendations for the National 15th Five-Year Plan. I acknowledge that the government has taken on board my suggestions on providing more maternity leave for civil servants, allowing people to freeze their eggs, and so on. The government no longer remains passive, and we have to commend its effort. However, survey shows that high property prices as well as pressure from work has held young people back from giving birth. So we have to conduct a comprehensive and in-depth studies. For example, what are deterring young people from getting married and giving birth? Otherwise, if we do not know the reasons behind, it would not be useful even if we give them cash handouts. Now I'd like to talk about what are the problems behind raising the retirement age of civil servants. I think in order to achieve high-quality development in Hong Kong, we have to insist on building a high-quality civil service team instead of filling the vacancies. We have quite a number of civil servants. I believe members can feel that when you help approve the funding proposals. I was frequently asked why we cannot streamline the organization of the civil service. We have quite a number of positions. Well, the DAB is of the view that it is not a scientific approach to raise the retirement age of all civil servants to 65. Since 2015, civilian staff who joined the civil service could extend their retirement age to 65, and in 2017, a mechanism was rolled out to retain retired officers. And currently, the government is trying to streamline the civil service establishment, and within this current government term, 10,000 civil service posts would be cut. According to statistics in 2023 to 24, the turnover rate of retiring officers reached 60%. If we extend the retirement age of all civil servants, this runs counter to our policy of adopting AI, and this would also deter young officers from getting promoted, and this would affect the civil servants' morale, and civil servants may opt to go to the private sector instead. So we have to be flexible. For those who are competent, we have to retain them. I believe that members of the public would agree that if we extend the retirement age of all civil servants across the board, it would have a huge implication. So I'm afraid that our party would not support this idea. We have to formulate our population policy. We have to have better planning for our labor market, elderly care protection, as well as childbearing policies. It is only by doing so that we can inject new impetus into our city. I so submit I do not support the idea of raising the retirement age of civil servants to 65. Professor Priscilla LEUNG. President, our chief executive has mentioned on a number of public occasions that we have to consider 5 points. That is, we have to be long-term, comprehensive. We also have to take into account micro and macro situation, and we have to address conflicts. Since 2012, I have been calling for promoting silver economy. We have to think about our healthcare resources, aging population problems, and manpower shortage. In the long run, we have to think about how we can plan and promote silver economy. We should explore establishing a silver hair business startup fund or a protection fund. The entire world is facing a lower birth rate. We have the Greater Bay Area, however, that is the 1 hour living circle. We also have healthcare and elderly care services and resources from our country, and that could help us address the problems. To cope with the most pressing problem brought by low birth rate, we have to understand that young people are unwilling to give birth. In order to reverse the decline or the trend, then we can address the problem. In the short run, we have to attract talent. So in my amendment, I mentioned that we're not only lacking talents at the elite level, but also we're lacking workers or talents at the blue-collar level. I'm glad that the current term government has been listening to our views. That's why the government has established the working group on promoting silver economy. I have expectations on the government. I hope that it would formulate a silver-haired development blueprint. Also, we have to address the structural problem. How can we allow the silver-haired group to contribute? A lot of them have consumption power, so we have to trigger that. Also, they can still work. A lot of baby boomers, they're still very active. They work as volunteers. They take part in activities on the market. So should we raise the retirement age of civil servants to 65 while agree to the direction? I have reservation of whether we should adopt this across the board. For the city university, the retirement age is 65, but for other universities, it's 60. I think we have to give employees the options. For some employees, they work until 60 and they get the pension. For others, they decide to stay after they've reached 60. I think we have to consider their needs. If you adopt this across the board, it might not become a very popular policy. However, if you give them the options, they would be happy. At the city university, they give employees the option to raise their retirement age to 65, but for others who aren't willing to do so, they can get the pension. Now, in terms of productivity, I believe you have all seen the movie involving Robert De Niro. It's called The Interns. Well, my mother has been working as volunteers, and even during Typhoon number 10, she called her friends to take care of them or to show her care. Well, our retirees are part of our assets, and if they can continue to work, the young people will have peace of mind as well. How can we encourage the silver-haired group to work? We could help them get business opportunities. We can encourage them to become online celebrities or KOLs. They could be models. They could work on investments. They could even start their businesses, or they can help young people to take care of their businesses. So we have entered the age of silver-haired. So we have to have better planning, and that includes what I've been calling for, that is the Silver-Hair Business Startup Fund. They could work alone, they could also work with others. We need to take care of our elderly. If our elderly members could have peace of mind, that could also give peace of mind to our young people.
Judy.
Secretary for Labor and Welfare. President, I would like to thank Ms. Judy Chan for proposing the motion, and Mr. Ken Wong, Mr. Duncan Chu, Mr. Stanley, Ms. Maggie Chen, Ms. Nixie Lam, and Professor Priscilla LEUNG for proposing amendments so that we have the opportunity to draw on collective wisdom and explore ways to formulate development strategies to meet the challenges posed by Hong Kong's low fertility rate, aging population, and shrinking labor force. The Census and Statistics Department compiles updated population projections every 5 years to determine the size of Hong Kong's population at different times during the projection period, which provides the basis for the government's planning work in various areas. As a result of the longer life expectancy and persistently low birth rate, coupled with the fact that the baby boomer generation is approaching retirement age, Hong Kong's population continues to age. According to the latest projections of the Census and Statistics Department, the population will reach 8.19 million in mid-2046, excluding foreign domestic helpers. The number of elderly persons aged 65 or above will increase to 36% of the population by then, and the labor force participation rate will drop gradually from about 55% in 2024 to about 52% in 2046. If we have a shrinking labor force, it is likely to stifle potential for economic growth, while a rising elderly population will increase demand for various elderly medical and other support services. To cope with the challenges brought about by demographic changes, the government understands there is a need to make comprehensive plans in various policy areas, including economic development, education and training, housing supply, labor and welfare, medical services, and childcare support. The relevant policy bureaus review the implementation and effectiveness of the measures under their purview from time to time and make timely adjustments to the measures in the light of factors such as social and demographic changes. The Chief Executive and the Chief Secretary for Administration and Deputy Chief Secretary for Administration and senior government officials will provide high-level steer in various ways, such as working groups and interdepartmental meetings to coordinate interdepartmental work as necessary. For example, in respect of coordination work and manpower, the Human Resources Planning Commission, chaired by the Chief Secretary for Administration, serves as a high-level policy platform with ex-official members comprising 8 secretaries for relevant bureaus, the government economist, the Commissioner for Census and Statistics, as well as the chairman of the Employees Retraining Board, the Vocational Training Council, and the Council for Accreditation of Academic and Vocational Qualifications, while the non-official members comprise experts and stakeholders from different sectors. In addition, the government set up the Working Group on Promoting Silver Economy and the Working Group on Aging Society Strategies, which are chaired by the Deputy Chief Secretary for Administration in 2024 and 2025, respectively, to promote cross-bureau and cross-sectoral collaboration and formulate measures to tackle the relevant challenges. The Labor and Welfare Bureau is responsible for work relating to the formulation of demographic policy and development of local human resources, including training and retraining of the local workforce and labor protection, as well as attracting talents and supporting their development in Hong Kong. In particular, to address the challenges posed by an aging population and manpower shortage, the current-term government has launched a series of proactive measures to attract talent since the end of 2022, and included industries related to the promotion of the 8 centers positioning in the talent list, which now covers a total of 60 professions to help attract talents to complement the high value-added and diversified development of the economy. As at the end of January this year, the relevant admission schemes have successfully attracted more than 260,000 talents from different sectors around the world to work and develop in Hong Kong, with the majority of them in their golden age of career development, with 70% of them below 40 years old. In addition, some of these talents have brought along their families to settle in Hong Kong. More than 240,000 dependents of approved applicants have arrived in Hong Kong, including more than 140,000 unmarried dependents under the age of 18. These new arrivals have reversed the decline in the local labor force during the pandemic and helped enrich the local talent pool, thereby enhancing Hong Kong's overall competitiveness. The government also continued to invest substantial resources in nurturing local talents and unleashing the local labor potential, and strengthened training and employment support services to help labor of all strata and educational attainment levels to continuously upgrade their skills and enhance their competitiveness in the light of Hong Kong's development needs. One example is to equip the local labor force with the relevant skills and knowledge in response to the rapid development and popularization of AI. Today's motion involves measures in various policy areas such as encouraging childbearing, creating an elderly-friendly environment, unleashing potential of the silver labor force, promoting sustainable development of the silver economy. The representative from different policy bureaus and I will respond after listening carefully to members' views and suggestions. Thank you, President.
45 members are waiting to speak. I ask each member to be succinct when you speak so that we can allow as many members to speak as possible. Professor Alex Fan. Thank you, Madam President. I support the motion and all amendments. Demographic challenges are by no means unique to Hong Kong. It is a shared challenge. In 2024, more than 60 countries have seen their peak population and their population is in decline. In the next few years, their population will shrink by 14%. And that will have profound impact on social stability, workforce, and a range of other measures. There are 4 ways to address the demographic challenge. First, childbirth. Second, silver economy. Third, high-end talent. Fourth, AI in technical education. First, encouraging childbirth. In Asia, Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and other countries have tried to hand out bonuses, housing perks, and child care allowances to encourage childbirth, but that did not work. That means cash alone is not enough. We need institutional support and a cultural shift. And that means we have to achieve 3 things in policy. First, we have to make people comfortable with giving birth, and they have to be able to afford raising a child. We need childcare services. Let's make it easier for young parents to look after children, and we should make our education less stressful. Let's reduce over competition. Let's cultivate the right values. For businesses, they should adopt flexible work hours and family-friendly policies so that young people can juggle family with career instead of being stuck in an either-or situation. Let's also go deeper with family values promotion. Let's encourage family-friendly policies on the employer side. Housing support also matters. The Housing Authority has launched priority schemes for families with children. So let's step up such programs. Let's be more ambitious so that we offer protection for families looking to have children. At the end of the day, money matters. So we need more child allowances. Let's do extra tax breaks. The next point has to do with raising the retirement age and the silver economy. Population aging shouldn't be a source of pressure. It should be new opportunities. By 2039, 1/3 of our population will be seniors. I support raising the retirement age for civil servants. Let's also get businesses to offer flexible retirement age so that seniors can keep contributing their expertise and experience to economic growth. The government should encourage the general technology sector, and that covers technology in sensors, smart transport, etc. And that way we can translate our slogans about security and fulfillment for seniors into reality. We need to bring in top caliber talent. Let's learn from overseas experience. Canada and Australia's experience is worth learning from. Those countries stay competitive because of 4 factors. First, quality of living. Second, social programs. Cultural diversity and inclusion. Institutional stability and transparency. And finally, solid research and capabilities. And finally, flexible but well-defined policies on work and study visas. We have a low tax rate, we have the rule of law, and we are well positioned to attract talent. We need to review our policies from time to time, and let's look at what our regional competitors such as Shanghai and Singapore, and let's look at what they're doing. Let's deepen the top talent pass scheme. Let's enhance tech tests. And let's work with the mainland cities of the GBA on talent platforms. Let's provide support in education, healthcare, and housing for incoming talent so that we encourage them to stay here. Finally, it has to do with AI education and technology education. Our population is aging, the workforce is shrinking, so we need technology education and training. So we should work with businesses and tertiary institutions to set up accreditation programs on technical education so the workers can pick up skills in automation and AI. And let's also enhance AI literacy across the entire population so that everyone can achieve upskilling in the community. Demographic challenges are more than just an issue with numbers. It's a structural issue. I so submit.
議員，
主席，我
Mr. Dennis Leung. I support Ms. Judy Chan's motion. The government statistics show that in 2024, our total fertility rate was only 0.84. To keep the population steady, we need 2.1. When the TFR is below 0.8, we are stuck in a trap. And that means band-aid measures will do nothing to raise our fertility rate. Our unemployment rate fell to 0.701%, and that was at an alarming level. Our demographic challenge is worsening. We are seeing more deaths than births each year. We're now in a super-aged society, and that's increasing the dependency ratio. The economy will suffer. Our low birth rate have to do with financial pressure, a shift in values, and also a range of other factors coming together. First, high cost of living. Raising a child is unaffordable. When people cannot juggle family with a career. Housing is unaffordable. Cramped living space is making people hesitate to give birth. Family values are shifting. People are getting married late and they delay childbirth. They put their own development first. Women now get married for the first time after 30 years old. We have the one-off newborn baby cash bonus of $20,000. That bonus has a limited impact. We're short of childcare support, and that results in the low birth rate. My concern is that our workforce will shrink because of the low birth rate. To meet the need for workers, we brought in imported workers, and that would hurt the morale of local workers, and that will discourage local workers from starting families. And this will further undermine the quality of living for people. We need a tripartite system involving the government, businesses, and workers to fix the problem. We need to go back to the model where more young people support seniors. Importing workers should be the last resort. I also proposed a home-job balance so that we improve people's quality of life. That way workers support our economic development and we do not end up in a rat race. Housing is top of mind for people. Young people are in a pickle. They're stuck in between, they're disappointed, and they are in panic. The government must act. The Chief Executive's policy unit should look at housing, healthcare, employees' rights, childcare, healthcare, tax breaks. We need a holistic assessment to come up with new policies so that we can encourage childbirth and that will fix the low birth rate and the shortage of talent. So here are my suggestions. For families with children aged below 3, we should issue $2,000 monthly allowances, and we need longer maternity leave. For pregnant women should get fully paid leave for prenatal checks and also leave for miscarriages. Employers should be banned from sacking pregnant employees. We need family-friendly workplaces. We need flexible work hours. Parents should get paid parental leave of 7 days per year. Paternity leave should be 7 days. We need public sector childcare. We need lower fees. Let's also encourage businesses to offer childcare space. We also need child allowance. Let's do progressive tax breaks. So for the second and third child, the tax allowance goes up. We also need a rental market for young couples so that they are more comfortable about having children. We also need to reestablish a department on population so that we take an integrated approach to population. So submit. Mr. Robert Lee. Thank you, Madam President. Hong Kong is in the same boat with other developed economies, and that is we have a low birth rate. That's why I support the motion and all amendments on measures to encourage childbirth. Those measures take time to produce an effect. The government's latest manpower projection is that by 2028 we will be short of 180,000 workers. This shortage will hold us back from aligning with our country's 15th five-year plan, which state that we should become an international hub for top-notch talent. So I will speak on talent and the silver economy. I hope my ideas can help Hong Kong fill the vacancies in the job market, support our industries, and also strengthen our status as a center in finance, shipping, and trade. On attracting talent, the population is aging, the job market is in trouble. I welcome the measures to attract talent. We have a number of admission schemes. We also have the new capital investment entrance scheme, and we also have tax breaks for single-family offices. I support these measures. To review the success of these measures, we should keep track of the situation and let's publish the figures. Let's look at the new CIES. Let's look at how many people have come here and the number of those single-family offices that have come here. Let's keep enhancing those measures. For the new CIES, let's expand the scope to cover derivatives, spot gold, and digital assets. Let's also move faster with amending the law so that we expand the categories of eligible transactions that qualify for tax breaks, such as debt and digital assets. To align with the National 15th Five-Year Plan, the government is now working to establish an international gold trading center and also a commodity trading ecosystem. Now, for gold trading, options, futures, derivatives, we need talent in these areas. So in our talent admission policies, we need a more targeted approach, so that we support our policy directions. On nurturing local talent, we should encourage local tertiary institutions to work with businesses. Let's do internship programs so that we have a larger local talent pool. On promoting the silver economy, population aging is worsening, so there's greater attention to developing silver industries. The government has announced that spending by people aged 60 or above made up 11% of our GDP. And in a few decades, that number, the spending will go up to close to $500 billion. Many industries, such as healthcare and tourism, now offer services targeted at seniors, such as aging, elderly care, and other services. I support the 30 measures announced by the Working Group on Silver Economy, such as silver financial services and safeguards, developing silver industries. To speed up the implementation of those measures, the government should encourage the industry to develop products for seniors. And let's also offer more retail bonds. Let's also encourage financial institutions to offer age-friendly product. We need a dual-pronged strategy. We need to bring in top-notch talent to meet the labor crunch. We also need to develop the silver industry to create fresh momentum for Hong Kong's long-term development. As so submit, I support the motion and the amendment.
Mr. Chris Yip, President, we have a low birth rate and the aging population problem is getting more serious. This is the fact. We need to formulate a long-term population policy to address the challenges and problems brought by the low birth rate as well as the aging population problems. This is crucial to our development of the city. I therefore thank Ms. Judy Chen for moving the motion so that we can bring together our ideas on this topic. Population development is a very complex problem that covers a wide scope of matters. Therefore, today I will focus on how we can encourage those aged above 65 to join the workforce. According to Census and Statistics Department, as at 2024, people aged above 65 in Hong Kong account for 1.57 million. Accounting for 24% of our total population, it is expected that the number will grow to 2.74 million in 2046, accounting for 36% of the total population. For those aged above 65, there are 220,000 people who are joining the workforce, and the labor participation rate has reached 13.7% in 2024 for the elderly. We are moving towards a knowledge-based economy. We see high education level of the people in Hong Kong, and also elderly people's health has improved, and this has provided them with the conditions to join the workforce. Let's look at Singapore and South Korea. Elderly labor participation rate is 40% and 32% respectively. So it shows that we can further unleash the labor force of the elderly in Hong Kong. I think we can, through tax concessionary measures, encourage employers to hire elderly people to work as part-timers. We can offer them flexible job opportunities so that those who are capable and experienced can contribute to the workforce. The SAR government, as the biggest employer, should take the lead. For those aged 60 or above, the government should offer better job opportunities to them. Ms. Judy Chan suggested that the government raise the retirement age of civil servants to 65. I have reservation. First, disciplined services officers are a major part of the civil service. I declare that my wife is a police officer. The police force as well as the fire services department impose high requirements on their officers. Employees who are getting old may not be able to handle work that require a lot of physical labor. If we raise the retirement age, that could hold back the turnover within the civil service as well as the inheritance. Therefore, we must extensively consult all civil servants as well as members of the public before we decide to extend the retirement age for all civil servants. Therefore, instead of raising the retirement age of civil servants, why not provide more flexible work arrangements for civil servants so that we can engage retired officers under post-retirement contracts or other types of contracts so that they could continue to contribute to the government. This is more appropriate and more in line with reality compared to the suggestion of raising the retirement age across the board. I support Ms. Nixie Lam's amendment, and for the other amendments or the original motion, I may not support them. Mr. Thomas So. Thank you, President. I thank Ms. Judy Chan for moving the motion. It gives us a very important opportunity to discuss this topic here. I speak in support of Ms. Judy Chan's motion as well as other amendments. Hong Kong has been a pluralistic society. People of different ethnicities have been working here hard. According to 2021 government statistics, ethnic minority account for 8.4% of our total population, up 37% compared to 10 years ago. And this increase has surpassed that of the local population. This is not just because we see a growth in terms of the number of foreign domestic helpers, but also a growth in EM population. In 2021, 15.2% of EM population was born in Hong Kong, up 57% compared to 10 years ago. The EM population is definitely crucial as we formulate our policies as well as review our demographic structure. For the EM population, they have special human resources. That's their advantage. Their labor participation rate, the domestic helpers account for 65.5%. That's 57% of the total population. For those aged 15 or above, that is the EM population, only 1.6% are not educated or only got pre-primary education. That's just 4.5% of the total population in Hong Kong. So we can see that the EM population are valuable human resources for us. If we can integrate them into our development, they would be able to contribute significantly to our society. However, we must admit that some EM population is still facing great challenges. Language barrier is the major challenge. In 2021, 43.7% of the EM population can speak Cantonese. The percentage dropped compared to 5 years ago. And the situation with adults is more serious. Take Pakistanis as an example. Most of them were born in Hong Kong, but in 2021, about 60% of them could not speak or write Chinese, and that affects their job opportunities. The unemployment rate as well as the poverty situation of the EM population is serious. In 2021, the unemployment rate reached 70.3%. That's 5% higher than the situation with the local population, and those under poverty line reached 17.6%, accounting for about 40,000 people. And that affects their sense of identity. According to a survey in 2018, over 40% of the interviewed EM youngsters said they would want to leave Hong Kong in the next decade. While we see an increase of the EM population, we are not facing just manpower shortage, but we are also faced with uncertainties and underlying risks. Financial problems or poverty problems might increase the crime rate, and with the increase of crime rate involving EM population may cause a vicious cycle. The EM population is an important component of our population, and the integration has to do with our long-term competitiveness as well as the harmony of our society. The government must be visionary in this regard in order to promote inclusion of the EM population. I have the following major directions to propose. First, we have to increase the Chinese competency. For example, we have to come up with clear assessment indicators for those who learn Chinese as a second language. We have to set the attendance rate as well as minimum learning hours for them. Also, we have to promote anti-discrimination ordinance amendment. We have to follow up on the matters based on the 9 recommendations made by the EOC. Also, we should appoint ex officio members from the EM population, taking reference of 25% of the gender benchmark as well as 15% of the youth participation rate. We should have at least 1 member from the EM population in each statutory body. I so submit. Thank you. Mr. Hong Kam In. President, I thank Ms. Judy Chen for moving the motion on formulating development strategies to deal with demographic challenges so that we could continue to focus on the problem of aging population. We're seeing great demographic structure change in Hong Kong. We see a persistent low birth rate and a shrinking labor force, and this has impacts on our long-term economic development. In the coming 20 years, we'll see a growth in elderly population. We have to confront this issue. According to Census and Statistics Department, by 2046, those aged above 65 will account for 1/3 of our total population. Also, we are faced with persistent low birth rate. In 2024, it's 0.841. That's lower than the 2.1 benchmark we need. Also, labor population continues to drop. That means we will be faced with restrictions in terms of our economic growth. Aging population is another challenge. We see great potential in terms of promoting silver economy. They have great spending power, and that could drive our healthcare, insurance, as well as sharing technology and tourism sectors. We need elderly-friendly designs for housing units, and that could bring economic opportunities to us. Elderly people are great manpower resources, we should encourage them to take part in social services, and that could make up for the loss of manpower in Hong Kong. The SAR government set up the Working Group on Aging Society Strategies, and that covers 15 policy bureaus. This is a cross-sectoral effort that promotes silver economy, and that also helps review policies on elderly care, fintech, to develop manpower resources among the elderly population. The effort deserves our recommendation and recognition. However, the government must formulate long-term policy so that we can have a solid basis for promoting our economy. I have the following suggestions. We have to promote a silver economy. With an aging population, we are brought by opportunities. The government must encourage elderly people to stay in the workforce. We should combat age discrimination at the workplace to ensure elderly people's job opportunities. We should also disperse spending vouchers or discounts for elderly people to boost spending. We should also encourage the business sector to transform welfare benefits into competitive industries. Also, we need to step up training for carers. They need more support because they're faced with long-term pressure. The government must support them. For example, the government could work with professional organizations to provide training courses for carers covering nursing, psychological or counseling support, as well as first aid knowledge. At the same time, we need to set up resource centers for carers to provide counseling services for them. Also, we need elderly allowance and tax breaks to highlight the contribution made by carers. We must step up support for carers as well as elderly people. We should also unleash their spending power and enhance elderly people's quality of living. We need a multi-pronged approach in order to sustain our economic growth. I so submit. Thank you.
Ms. Elaine Chick. Thank you, President. I would like to speak on my views in relation to demographic policy in Hong Kong. We are faced with a difficult challenge where we have a low fertility rate and we have an aging population. It's not just about the choice of families, because it affects the long-term competitiveness of Hong Kong and the prospects for sustainable development of the city. On encouraging childbearing, in 2024, the government launched the newborn baby bonus. So for each newborn baby, a $20,000 subsidy will be granted for 3 years. The community is very concerned whether the budget of this year will extend the relevant arrangements. We have to be pragmatic, however. A one-off bonus may not actually encourage childbearing. In 2025, we only have 31,711 births. It is 14% lower than the figure in 2024. This is a warning signal. The government must have a top-level design in formulating demographic policies. The DAB suggests that a high-level working group be set up so that we can coordinate resources of different departments to formulate a forward-looking demographic development blueprint and to convey a clear message to young couples that we encourage childbearing and the government's determination in implementing demographic policies. We have many support services related to childbearing, childcare services, education, housing policy. They are under the purview of different bureaus and departments. There is no coordination or synergy because there is independent implementation. So we have the $20,000 newborn baby bonus, but it contradicts with the removal of the $2,500 child allowance. We really need to try to boost childbearing, and we need to remove the barriers between different government departments. We need to have a comprehensive mindset and policy formulation and resource consolidation to indeed create a childbearing friendly environment and to provide support to young families. Apart from encouraging childbearing, we also need to tackle the challenge of an aging population. With elderly welfare, it has caused a heavy burden on the government. I therefore support the development of a silver economy. The core of a silver economy is not just about taking care of elderly persons. It is about giving them the respect and recognizing their achievements and allowing them to have a dignified golden age. We need to go beyond traditional welfare. Right now, the elderly care services in Hong Kong rely on basic care services provided by social welfare service units. There is not much option. There are not many options available for quality living for elderly persons, and even at this age where we have a rapid advancement of technology, we have not truly used technology in elderly care. We have many shops that are promoting elderly health and living, and many citizens are concerned that the shops are not exactly concerned about elderly health. They are just trying to profit from the phenomenon. But I think it also shows there is great market potential for a silver economy. I suggest that the government really take advantage of the Jockey Club elderly health facility in Jurong Technology and to make use of public-private partnership model of community living rooms so that we have NGOs to have community living rooms for the elderly that can have different Jurong technology applications available so that elderly persons not only have a place for socialization and support, but we can have a market operation model to have different technological services available for elderly persons. Your time is up. Mr. Chang Ho-Feng. Thank you, President. I think the original motion proposed by Ms. Judy Chen has come at a right timing, and because an aging population is a challenge faced by different parts of the world. Also, this year we will have the census done, so I think we can really make good use of the data collected. We must take an innovative mindset to tackle the relevant challenges. I think there has to be a comprehensive reform. Right now, we take an across-the-board approach. We need to take a more targeted approach to make sure resources are used in the right places. I have 4 points to make. One, we have an aging population, but we cannot just put resources wherever things are going. We need to make sure we have comprehensive information about the situation of elderly persons, their health conditions, whether they're singleton or doubleton elderly households, so as to make sure we provide targeted support with the assistance of care teams to elderly persons. Second, we need to retain talents after we have attracted them to Hong Kong. I believe with the new census, we can really find out information about what kind of talents we need in different sectors so that we can make adjustments to policy. We also need to help new arrivals tackle housing problems as well as issues relating to their children's education so that they can really settle in Hong Kong. Third, we also need to have information on the mobility of population so as to make plans. We need to make sure we consider the planning of different developments such as the Northern Metropolis so that we can plan in advance with reference to future demographic distribution. We have been studying the feasibility of Hangzhou-CHIU and the Tuen-Wun railway connection. These strategic infrastructure projects will really help alleviate the traffic burden on northwestern new territories and to make sure we can connect properly to new development areas. Planning is very important. It's not just about having a blueprint. We need to make sure there are ancillary facilities in transportation, healthcare, and education to support a new development area to make them attractive. We have seen low fertility figures in recent years, but it also shows the newborn baby bonus of $20,000 does not resolve the issue. We really need to upgrade our fertility childbearing friendly policy. We should not only be dispersing cash subsidies, we need to provide comprehensive support. We should have progressive subsidies for those having a second or even a third child to really alleviate their burden. And we also need to increase the number of places available for childcare services. We also need to make use of data to monitor the effectiveness of different measures to really distinguish between different groups who don't want to have children altogether, or those who want to have children but they cannot afford it, or those who want to have children but there are something with their physical capabilities that cannot make it happen. We need to take a targeted approach with childcare, welfare, and healthcare policies to really create a bright future for Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Alan Chen. Thank you, President. The future development blueprint of Hong Kong is grand. But in order to realize the vision, we need to make sure we have the labor force and talents to make that happen. We are unfortunately faced with a shrinking labor force and an aging population. It is projected that in 2046, every 1 in 3 in the population would be elderly persons. And according to the 2023 manpower projections, in 2028, we have a manpower gap of 180,000. When faced with this structural demographic challenge, I have 3 suggestions. We need to plan in early on to meet the challenge of civil servants' pension. In the 1980s, the government expanded the establishment, and we have seen in recent years we have a retirement boom. The retirement rate is about 3%, and with a longer lifespan, we will have an even heavier burden. In 2024, we already have over 1 trillion Hong Kong dollars in civil service pension. It is double that figure in 2021 of $500 billion. We do not plan in advance, we will not be able to meet the financial commitment. I suggest the government look into having inflation-linked bonds issued to meet the burden so that we can really help meet the burden but also expand the bond market, and we can also essentially cap for the long-term financial burden. As for those receiving one-off lump sum for their civil service pension, we can also encourage them to make use of the funds for consumption to unleash potential in silver economy. We also need to enhance vocational and professional education and training. Apart from trawling for talents, to meet the manpower gap, we must nurture local talents to make sure there is consistent supply. For many years, we have attached perhaps too much importance to academia, causing a mismatch between students and industrial demands. And we actually have the opposite situation in Germany. We should really refer to the experience and rationalize vocational and professional education and training to make sure there is smooth transition from education to work. I am happy to see that in 2024 the government set up the Alliance on Universities of Applied Sciences to truly recognize feedback, to recognize that as an option for upward mobility. We need to make sure the increase in pay for feedback students meet the general market situation to make sure that is recognized. We also need to enhance childcare support. Recently, we had a forum to discuss how we can boost the low fertility rate. We really need to adopt a continuous policy to provide support to families to alleviate the burden on families in relation to childbearing. We can refer to the practice in Singapore where the government will have a startup fund for children, and before the children reach 12 years old, if deposits are made by parents, the government will match the funds deposited by parents. This should instill confidence in families in having children. I also appreciate the government in recent years adopting a combination punches approach in promoting childcare services and housing to reverse the trend in the decline of fertility rate. Demographic policy is a complex issue. The government should adopt a long-term mindset to make sure we continue to have development in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Mr. Ray Wong, I support Ms. Judy Chan's motion on developing a strategy to deal with demographic challenges. Our birth rate are low, our workforce is shrinking. In 10 years' time, 1 in 3 residents in Hong Kong will be a senior. This is more than just a social issue. This has to do with our workforce, our productivity, and our economy. Given this demographic shift, our strategies should cover more than just welfare. We should also look at new quality productive forces and industries. This pressure can be converted into impetus for new industries, and we can develop the silver economy. Back in May last year, the government set up the working group on silver economy. 30 measures were announced that showed government resolve. The measures are lopsided. They are on the supply side. We can do better on improving seniors' lives. For the silver economy to work, we have to go from a supply-driven process to a high value-added approach. So here are my suggestions. First, more flexibility. We have to shift the focus from supply and manufacturing to high value adding. In the absence of incentives to spend, product will find no market. That's why the Federation of Hong Kong Industries has proposed the Q-mark system for the silver economy. We're talking about a system offering a creditable product. So we should expand the funding schemes for seniors to buy German technological products with the Q mark. That's how we can channel the money to quality products, and that will offer greater assurance for seniors. Meanwhile, we will also be able to encourage local businesses to go towards the high-end testing and manufacturing. Second, we need more support for small and medium enterprises for brand upgrading. We have the BUD fund, but that BUD fund comes on a matching ratio of 1:3. For SMEs looking to move into the silver space, the barrier remains high. So can we lower the ratio to 1.2 for the bud fund? Let's encourage more local businesses to study silver products. Let's encourage them to test the products and promote them. That will give SMEs greater confidence. Let's also encourage AI adoption. Let's unleash productivity. AI is now elevated to a position where it can be applied in every industry. That's our country's strategy, but Hong Kong is falling behind on that. Many SMEs do invest in AI, but SMEs have limited resources. They see limited incentives, so AI has yet to be part of SME's core business. On AI empowerment, there are two core issues. First, we will set up the HKAI R&D Institute. Let's strengthen that. Let's bring together the government, industries, research, and the academia. For senior workers, let's create a retraining pathway for them so that they can adapt. Second, let's support local original AI research. Let's focus on scenario-driven AI research. We should encourage local businesses to do our own research so that we come up with our own big data. For aging at home, we can do software, we can do robotics. Let's do technologies that focus on our own scenarios. The way forward should be matching AI development with industry needs, and that can improve people's lives, whichever walk of life they are from. Population challenges are not without opportunities, so let's make good use of our tools, let's roll out policies, let's make use of AI, and that will help us mitigate the situation. Anyone with AI tools will be able to start a business so that we truly leverage AI to help us achieve high quality development. I so submit. Mr. Chairman, for a call. Mr. Deputy, on this motion, our birth rates are low, the population is aging fast, the workforce is shrinking, fewer workers will join the workforce. We need people to drive our city's development. I want to share some thoughts. On the proposal to extend the retirement age for all civil servants to 65, I have reservations about that. Civil servants cover all kinds of posts. There are disciplined service workers. They have to perform physically demanding and dangerous tasks. A broad brush approach of retiring at 65 will undermine operational efficiency and also bring safety risks for our disciplined services. Ms. Nixie Lam's proposal of greater flexibility in this regard takes into account these factors and is in line with the government's policy goal on the silver economy. The National 15th Five-Year Plan's recommendations proposes tapping the silver resources. We do have our own silver initiative. There are job fairs for middle-aged and senior workers. The point is to get sprightly workers to keep working. Flexible retirement schemes will allow civil servants to take part in advisory roles. They can give advice in technical matters that avoids the broad brush approach, and that can also mean more workers, and that would be a win-win outcome. On improving existing talent admission schemes, we have to attract technical professionals. Hong Kong is an international city. We need a wide range of workers. Our talent admission schemes have achieved good results in attracting mainland workers, but on drawing technical professionals, we can do better. Let's look at pay and conditions, career progression, and find a way to make Hong Kong more attractive to technical professionals. We need top-notch talent from the mainland and more. We should give full play to our strength of being a free and open economy. Let's also look at Belt and Road countries. Let's also attract outstanding workers from those places. Let's improve visa arrangements, international schools, and healthcare access. Let's make it easier for the best and brightest from overseas to come here, and that will help us address our labor crunch. On the supplementary labor importation scheme, some industries are struggling to hire. It's only right for those businesses to hire outside workers, but there are sectors with a higher unemployment rate, so the government should adjust the labor import schemes in a timely way so that we don't get an unhealthy competition for jobs between imported workers and their local peers. We also need training. We need targeted retraining for local workers so that local workers can enter sectors struggling to hire. And that can help us address the mismatch between jobs and workers. That will safeguard workers' rights and also ensure optimal resource allocation in the job market. We need a dedicated strategy for demographics to stay aligned with the 15th Five-Year Plan, which proposes high-quality population development, and that will ensure a steady supply of workers. That way, Hong Kong will play an active role in our country's plan and Seoul Summit. Professor William Wong. People make our community. An aging population and low birth rates will bring challenges. With the rise of artificial intelligence, we have to adapt our strategy. I want to share some thoughts on three fronts. First, we need AI literacy for all. We should promote human-machine interaction. With AI, new jobs and new functions will emerge. Existing industries will have to re-engineer their business processes. New ways of production, new workflows will involve more than just upskilling of employees. Instead, we should think about reskilling in education and vocational training. Basic education, for example, should embrace AI-assisted education, AI-based learning companions, AI-based teaching should feature more prominently. We should be building capacity so that children can learn on their own and solve problems on their own with the aid of AI from a young age. That's how we can adapt to the rapid changes of AI. On workers, we should promote learning of AI skills in the entire community. Under the Continuing Education Fund, we need dedicated funding for people to attend AI courses so that people can pick up the skills required for integrated operations featuring people and the machines. Population aging gives rise to concerns about the shrinking workforce, but we should adopt a new lens when we look at the seniors of tomorrow. The workforce today is well versed in technologies. Many of them are digital natives. With new advances in AI and robotics, workers will be more used to technology. So the workers of today will have huge potential. So when we project manpower in the future, we have to take into account the productivity gains from technology. We should update our manpower projection. We should incorporate also the virtual population and this untapped potential. When we conduct a census and manpower projection, we should include not just natural persons. Let's also include the assistive population. Let's also assess the number of robots, the number of AI literate people, and also the capability of people to work with machines. That will truly reflect the new situation where people work alongside machines. And on that basis, we can optimize human resource allocation across industries, and that will be the basis for long-term planning. Let's set clear directions for the future and use that as the basis for policy making in the long term. Many developed economies are struggling with a low birth rate and an aging population. AI and technological breakthroughs offer a new way to think about how we fix this. Our demographic policy should take into account human-machine interaction. On education productivity, we need a new mindset. We should be encouraging human-machine interaction so that the public can benefit and we can create a more prosperous and resilient future. I so submit.
Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of Ms. Judy Chan's motion. I think that in coping with the demographic challenges, the government can adopt the three following strategies. First, encourage families without children to give birth as soon as possible. Second, unleash silver-haired groups' productivity. Third, strategically attract talents from outside Hong Kong. First, on the problems of fertility. People give birth in Hong Kong at a rather old age. There is an increasing demand for assisted reproductive services. However, there are many restrictions faced by people in Hong Kong, so those who would like to give birth at the end, they have to travel abroad to receive assisted reproductive services. I think we have to review our technologies on the premise that we take into account ethical problems. We should improve the services provided to the public so that they do not have to seek help from outside Hong Kong. Also, we have to support our families. A lot of the families have working parents, so they need childcare services. I understand that the government cannot, in the short term, significantly increase the number of service places at childcare centers. However, I have this suggestion. You can learn from the bot place scheme. You could subsidize NGOs and service providers to provide quality childcare services for families so that parents can continue to work after giving birth. Also, the government needs to better unleash the productivity of the silver-haired group. A lot of retirees still have the ability and willingness to work, so the government can consider extending the retirement age of people to replenish the labor force. To incentivize elderly people to work, we have to review the current policies. Those aged 60 have to retire and they have to make a statutory declaration that they are not willing to be employed again in order to get their MPF savings before they reach 65. And this lowered the flexibility for elderly. The government can consider this. For those aged 60, we could give them the freedom to withdraw their MPF savings so that elderly people, without completely withdrawing from the labor market, they have the financial flexibility, and at the same time, we can boost silver-haired groups' spending. Now, as mentioned by Professor Priscilla LEUNG in her amendment, we have to more actively attract talents from outside Hong Kong. We have to be more proactive. We have to tap into the market of the Belt and Road countries. We have to focus on countries that are less developed because there are many talents with potential there. Hong Kong to these people is very attractive. If the government can provide more support to them, I believe we will be able to attract them to stay in Hong Kong in the long run, to inject continuous impetus to our city. Overall speaking, population problems have to do with our competitiveness as well as our sustainable development. I speak in support of Ms. Judy Chan's motion. I hope that the government would adopt my suggestions above so that we can lay a more solid foundation for the economic development in Hong Kong. Thank you. Ms. Kwok Foo-young, Deputy President, Hong Kong is faced with an unprecedented structural and demographic problem. According to projection, we are entering an aging population problem, and we have a persistently low birth rate, and this affects our economic development as well as our long-term development. I think we have to review how we can improve our strategies in the following 3 areas, including aging in place as well as technology and assisted reproductive technologies. Even with the labor importation scheme and talent admission scheme, we aren't able to address the demographic problems brought by an aging population. There was cash handout as well as tax concessions and healthcare support. I think there has been more support from the government, but there's a limitation in terms of the effectiveness of these policies. I am a working parent myself, so I understand the stress faced by working parents in terms of how they can juggle between families as well as work. I have the following 3 suggestions. First, we have to provide more support in terms of assisted reproductive technologies. The IVF services in Hong Kong are very expensive. Those who'd like to opt for these services, they cannot afford them. So there should be more places for public assisted reproductive services, and there needs to be subsidy for people to opt for services in the private sector. Also, we need to unleash a female labor force by supporting working parents. For example, we can increase the number of childcare service places. We should step up training for community nannies so that we have more professional nannies at the community. Also, we need more support for children in terms of their elderly, in terms of their healthcare support as well as education. Also, with rapid population aging problem, we need to transition from residential care services into more quality elderly care services. In the 2025 policy address, there is an announcement that the government would set up the working group on aging society strategies. I think the government should promote germ technology. For example, there should be anti-slippery floor tiles as well as relevant equipment for elderly people at home. That would include fall detection systems as well as relevant sensors, so that for singleton elderly, they could enhance the safety at home with the elderly-friendly design. At the same time, we should expand the coverage of the Gerontech Fund to reduce the cost for grassroots to buy Gerontech products. This would enhance the quality of living for elderly people and at the same time provide more support to them. And we can also boost the healthcare industry so that we can build a healthy cycle. Artificial intelligence has become an irreversible trend. In the 2025 policy address, AI is positioned as one of the core industries in Hong Kong. How can we promote AI as an industry? Well, that is part of the vision in our development blueprint. In order to strengthen our edge, we have to promote AI education. We need to step up training for people in this regard. How can we teach people to make use of AI to boost work efficiency? My suggestion is that our education system should move with the times and it should tie in with the development of our industries. For example, in the primary and secondary school AI education development blueprint, we have to provide guidelines as well as regulations for teaching staff. We also have to step up training for existing teaching staff to help them upgrade and transform themselves. We also have to step up assisted reproductive services. we need smart technology, and we have to integrate education technology so that we can build a more sustainable society to cope with challenges brought by an aging population. I so submit. Thank you. Mr. Chan Pok-chi.
Deputy President.
The aging population problems are becoming more serious in Hong Kong. We're faced with an acute manpower shortage. According to statistics, the birth rate dropped to less than 32,000 people in 2025. We're just at the marginal line here. There's an imbalance. So we need top-level design to address the pain points. The DAB has been calling for a cross-departmental population strategy group led by a secretary to follow up on the matter so that we can integrate different resources we have to cope with the challenges. We have elderly people, young people, as well as the middle-aged in Hong Kong. For the middle-aged as well as elderly, we have to provide a more family-friendly working environment for them. We need government's policies, and we have to integrate the policies with members' feedback to promote the policies. With the aging population problems, I'm glad to see that the government set up the working group on aging society strategies. I hope that the government would come up with more systemic solutions. For example, we should increase the number of service places for residential elderly care homes and to boost the service quality. Also, we have to make use of big data to come up with projections with the aging population problem so that we can make use of the resources in the GBA. We should encourage stakeholders to take part in silver hair industry. We should transform challenges into opportunities. For the middle-aged, currently the admission schemes have attracted over 220,000 talents to come to Hong Kong. I hope the government would further improve the policies to focus on certain industries in terms of attracting talents. It should streamline application procedures and expand the scope of talents we need. We need to attract talents, retain them, and make good use of them so that we can cope with the manpower shortage. For young families, we need to build a family-friendly working environment for them. This is the aspiration for a lot of people in Hong Kong. According to last year's policy address, in the coming 3 years, there will be 15 subsidized childcare centers providing 1,500 service places for children aged between 0 and 3. This is a good news for families with newborns. However, the supply can never catch up with the demand. But by making improvements progressively, we can, for example, have the Development Bureau and the Labour and Welfare Bureau transform the vacant or idle sites in Hong Kong into childcare centers. We should improve the Hong Kong planning standards and guidelines to encourage more childcare centers to be set up in commercial buildings so that more families can enjoy the childcare services. On building a more family-friendly working environment through the Good Employer Charter, the government has been promoting this and we have yielded results. However, we need to deepen this scheme. I hope the government could come up with more targeted policies. The DAB calls for an employer accreditation scheme. We can offer tax breaks to enterprises to encourage them to hire moms, and we can encourage them to provide flexi-work arrangements as well as work-from-home arrangement for working mothers. We should also step up training for community nannies to increase their service quality. This will alleviate the burden for families with newborns. We can also encourage people to give birth this way. This will help us address the imbalance brought by the demographic challenges. We need to have more strategies and we have to roll out these strategies. I hope the government will look into these strategies, and together we'll be able to benefit all families in Hong Kong, and we can also improve our demographic structure and in the long run ensure the prosperity of Hong Kong. So I so submit. Thank you.
Mr. Tang Fei, I speak in support of Ms. Judy Chen's original motion. We are faced with an aging population. I believe most people know this. And with the rapid advancement of AI, it has really impacted the skills needed in the market. I have 3 questions that I hope the government will consider when formulating demographic policy. With the importation of talents, 90% of talents admitted through various talent admission schemes are from the mainland. But we have, at the end of 2025 in China, the total population being $1.405 billion. It is 3.39 million below the year before. And for 4 consecutive years, the fertility rate in the country has declined. And I believe it is a record low since 1949. And we have a total population that is akin to the figure we had in the 3rd year of the Qianlong reign in the Qing dynasty. And we really need to diversify the sources of talents. We should try to have talents from Southeast Asia and other places to come to Hong Kong so as to prevent vicious competition between Hong Kong and the mainland. With the admission of talents, we do see still a shrinkage of the secondary primary schools and kindergartens. We have a lot of talents bringing their families to Hong Kong to settle in Hong Kong. It does help alleviate the burden on secondary and primary schools and kindergarten, but it does not reverse the trend of schools closing. Many people don't understand why. It is because with the admission of talents, it does not specifically help with the calculation of fertility rate because we can't really project the admission of talents, and the Education Bureau cannot project demand for future places in schools with reference to the number of talents admitted. And we do see a declining fertility rate, which is why the number of school places is declining. We see a lower fertility rate. We do anticipate a lower number of students in future. So we have schools closing. But then we have also young couples worrying about there being not enough kindergarten places or primary school places. There is a contradiction here. So we really need to think about how the importation of young talents will help stabilize the school system in Hong Kong. We also need to talk about how we need to enhance AI literacy. We need to think about in our education system that we need to nurture professional talents in AI rather than just general talents. Between 2023 and 2025, Amazon, Meta, and Google have just had large-scale dismissals where they have had a lot of middle management call the officers dismissed, and while they are spending large sums in recruiting AI talents, before we would need 10 early level engineers complete programming work. Now we only need a junior AI talent to make that happen. So if we continue with our existing approach with nurturing AI talents, where we're just nurturing talents in programming and coding, we will be faced with a future where the Silicon Valley is experiencing. We really need to make sure we have high-end talents who deal with data. we need to be more targeted. In fact, the development of AI is now more rapid than the development of humans. So we need to make sure we are nurturing professional talents in AI rather than just general talents. Thank you.